Hi, so I'm going to talk about my outline for weeks 4 and 5 for the learning, learning teaching interaction. So I'll just get started. In chapters 4 and 5, so for week 4 we did chapters 4 and 5 in teaching the gospel, pages 11 through 15 and 17 through 29. Talked about designing effective instruction. So the component display theory I thought was really interesting, sharing something then allowing the audience or the learner to relate it to their own examples or to their own experiences. I thought that was a really good way to teach, and I hope to incorporate that in the way that I do my workshop here. Another thing that I thought was really important was that we give examples. As we teach, storytelling is something that stood out to me, that it's a way that we can have many people be able to relate to what we're saying. I don't know, when I'm in church or when I'm in a class, having a lecture or something, I really appreciate when the teacher tells a story so that I can relate to it. I think that President Monson's really good at this, that he teaches correct principles in a really strong way, but they're a lot of times through telling stories. And I think that's a great way to be a good family life educator, so that we can tell age-appropriate stories to whoever we're speaking to. In the reading it said, teaching is made more interesting and effective by the use of appropriate stories. They can help learners see how an abstract principle applies to real life. They can also help learners remember the general principle we learn through stories. I also think it's important that we ask questions without having an answer in our mind. This is something that just came to my mind. When I was on my mission, Elder Bednar came and spoke to us, and instead of teaching us, we had to read a couple of his talks before he came, and then instead of just teaching us about those talks, he asked questions, but with those questions, he wasn't expecting a specific answer. You know, at times we're like, oh, well, who were the 4 sons of Lehi? You know, we know they're expecting an answer, but the way that Elder Bednar taught was asking a question, being open to any answer that was given, and then continuing to ask questions to teach more, if that makes sense. So I think that's a great way to, to not play a guessing game, but to teach, and as a family life educator. And the next thing that stood out to me was engaging the audience. We can't be intimidating as a teacher. I don't know, I've had plenty of teachers that have heard lecturers or that have been intimidating, and I don't want to be that family life educator. We need to have open discussions instead of just lecturing. Obviously, lecturing is appropriate at times, but I think that having open discussions is a really positive way to keep the audience alive and active. And then I think we need to be open to answers and questions that the learners have, so that they can answer each other's questions, but also have a discussion. In the reading it said, relevance, respect, and participation equals effective teaching, since I paraphrased it a little bit. Another thing was that sharing and teaching for the age of the audience is extremely important. We don't want to be talking to a group of 30-year-old women as if they're 16-year-old young women. It will help engage them as we talk to them appropriate to their age. I think it's another thing that's really important is that we learn together. As a teacher, we're not just, or as a family life educator, we're not just there to teach or to lecture, but we're there to learn and to grow from everyone. And I think that helps you not be as intimidating as a teacher. Let me see, I don't want to talk too much about this. In teaching the gospel, pages 11 through 15 and 17 through 29. It talked about being in tune with the Spirit, and I think that is so key in being a good teacher. We'll be given the words to say. That's something that stood out to me. Specifically on my mission, I spoke Norwegian, and it was scary thinking, okay, I have to open up my mouth, and the Lord will put in my mouth what I'm supposed to say, but it's true. I really know that it's true. Another thing that I think sometimes we kind of push to the side is that no matter what we prepare for the lesson, we need to follow the Spirit and do what the Spirit wants us to do. We don't know the people that we're going to be teaching personally. Sometimes we do, but for the most part, we don't know exactly what they need. So, and the Spirit knows everyone 100% better than we do. So following the Spirit is so key to teaching a good lesson and to helping the audience be engaged and really apply what they learned to their personal lives. We need to be prepared, be an example, pray, study, trust in the Lord and in the Spirit, and follow the Spirit. I think these are key things. If we're not prepared, and if we're just going out on a whim, which I am definitely guilty of that, then we're not fully prepared to teach the group of people that we're there to teach. I think it's important to ask these questions to ourselves. What are you going to teach? How are you going to teach it? Because sometimes it can come on suddenly and we don't really know what we're doing, or it's harder to follow the Spirit if we're not prepared. Let's see. And then for chapters 6 and 7, it talked about being a leader, helping participants attain skills, and using object lessons, media, games, or other hands-on activities. And I think those are really, really important things to remember, obviously pertaining to the age that the audience is. But, I mean, who doesn't love hands-on activities to learn? And I don't know, I think that's something that all ages can, obviously age appropriate, though. I think we also need, something else that stood out to me is that we need to be prepared to work with diverse audiences. Be aware, think before speaking, and be prepared. Those are just a few things that I jotted down. And then in the Teaching the Gospel, pages 35 through 43, I wrote down that we need to think of what the audience needs and what will get their attention. We need to ask good questions and use Christ as a perfect example of a teacher. He really is the perfect example. He used parables. He taught with love. He taught for the individual, and he asked good questions. As a missionary, I'm sure that everyone knows this, but you would ask a question and then sit there in silence. And I think that silence is a huge, is pretty critical in receiving answers. Lots of times people don't want to answer, but by being silent, allowing the Spirit to work and people to think in their minds of what they think the answer is, or what their experiences are, it really helps the discussion to continue and to thrive. And then the last thing there that I wrote down is that we use all of the resources that we have. Using music brings the Spirit so much, and that's just one of the ideas that I brought that I jotted down to use all the resources that we have. Anyways, sorry this is kind of long, but yeah, thanks for watching.